I'm excited to be introducing to you the Petal Pushers Stamps, Dies, and Stencil Pack for you today. This is a great year-round collection with beautiful floral designs, and they also fit perfectly on the 2023 printed calendars. Now let's take a closer look at the die collection. So the first thing we have here is this large frame that kind of has like a postage-like look around it. This is great for creating a mat on your card front, or you can die cut out your stenciled images. I die cut out the different flowers in a variety of colors. There's also some centerpieces that you can layer together. So I have the base piece die cut from some Stardust cardstock and the top piece from Buttercup, or you can do vice versa. There's also the word die hello that you can die cut out to add to your card fronts. There are some leaves so you can build up your flower bunch. And if you notice afterwards, once I show the stencils, you could layer these on top of your stencil design. There's also a centerpiece that you can die cut out that's kind of in the shape of like a sunburst, and then also a circle to add to the center. So a great way to layer these up. We have some small foliage pieces to add into your arrangement. And then there's also another one. It's kind of like a little sprig, and it has these little flowers on top. So there's a die that die cuts out all of these little flowers, and you can add these to the top so you can really customize your flowers. There's also some little stars that you can add too. And I did find it easiest for these really small pieces to use some sort of jewel picker to help pick these up. There is a die in here to cut out the word friend, so you can use the letters individually or die cut it from the front of your card. Here's a card I created using the dies from this set, so I layered them together. I took the same die for that large flower, die cut it once from a darker cardstock and another time from lighter cardstock, and then layered them together with a foam square just to add that dimension. The stamp set included in this bundle is a great mini stamp set for year-round. We have happy birthday, congratulations, thinking of you, and thank you. Now we have the stencil pack. So this actually has 7 stencils in it, and they are 4 3/4 by 4 3/4. There are 2 different designs in this stencil pack. It'll say at the top, etched into the stencil, floral 1A, 1B, 1C, and 1D. And then there's floral 2A, 2B, and 2C. And there's also registration marks in there to help you line up your cardstock. Here's an example of this stencil set that creates this little bouquet. And this is the one where I said you could take those die cuts and layer them on top to add dimension. And this is the other design that's included in this bundle where I die cut it using that frame die and then added a sentiment. I'm going to show you how one of these stencil sets work. So I took a piece of white cardstock that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. I folded up some Post-it tape and placed it behind there so I could attach this to my work surface. And then I'm also just lining up those registration marks with the corner of my cardstock and holding the stencil down to my work surface with some low-tack tape. I'm going to start by ink blending on some Aqua Sky ink using my mini blending brush. And I'm going to use circular motions to apply this ink going from left to right and right to left to make sure I'm getting complete coverage of the flower. Now, if you want to boost this up a little bit, you can take some Oceanside ink and add it right to the center to help kind of add some dimension to our images. These flowers are spaced out enough that you could make a flower a different color. After adding this first layer color to my flowers, I can just carefully remove that first layer, and then I'm going to bring in stencil B, lining up those registration marks once again to make sure everything is placed, but you can also tell pretty easily where everything is supposed to go. This stencil has the center of the flowers and the leaves, and I'm going to use 2 different colors on here, starting with Buttercup in the center of the flowers. If you need to, you can bring in maybe some Post-it notes to help mask off areas, but I found this very easy to bring in Sprout for my leaves and stems. Then I can carefully remove this stencil to reveal my next layer here. And I can add the 3rd layer of the stencil, and this one is going to add some details to the center of our flowers and also some fun little elements around the flowers. So for the centers, these little dots, I'm adding Stardust ink, And then I'll use some ballet slippers, so just a really light pink to add to these little elements around the flowers. This is where having mini blending brushes comes in really handy because it fits right into those small areas. So then after I have this color added, I can lift up my stencil and I have this perfect one layer card. You really don't even need to trim this out if you don't want. So off screen, I did stamp a sentiment on the front of both of those cards that I showed you. Great for quick and easy cards. And then here's a look at the other two cards that I had created using the die cuts and also the other stencil image. That was our close-up look to the Petal Pushers Stamps, Dies, and Stencil Pack. I'm excited to introduce to you the Exclamations Turnabout Stamp and Dies. This is a really fun set that's great for many things like happy birthday cards, congratulations cards, and encouragement cards. All of the cards I'm going to show you today using the Exclamations Turnabout is using the new all-in-one Turnabout Jig. Here's a closer look at the dies in the bundle. So we'll start with this base layer that I die cut out of that light blue. Here's a look at that base layer. Then there's also the happy birthday. Now this is really fun because it's all one piece and I die cut it out of white cardstock. Now what you can do if you want to customize that is take that long birthday down here and die cut that out of whatever, maybe it's a favorite color of the person you're sending the birthday card to. And then you just glue those letters right on top, or you can leave them white. Some other fun things included in the bundle is the "You Did It" exclamation point, the word happy, we have a speech bubble, a megaphone, and it also has these additional pieces to add to the ends of the megaphone. Now there is a die right under the stars there that I'm not grabbing yet. I didn't know what that was at first and I didn't realize it till later, but that die that was under the stars is actually the handle to the megaphone. But there are stars to create some kind of confetti on the front of your card. Now we can take a look at the Exclamations Turnabout. Of course, on the back, it shows you the stamp set stamped out 1, 2, 3, and 4 times. Also gives you a nice color guide if you wanted to just get something to get started. And included in each of the turnabouts is not only your stamp set, but also the guide that you need to line this up to stamp it out properly. Some other fun elements on this stamp set are some sentiments. We have "Let's Celebrate" and "You're Incredible." We have the "Wow" and "Yay" that fit inside or on top of that megaphone that you could die cut out. Then there's these exclamation points. So there is a solid, an outline that you can use individually or layered together. Same thing with the stars. You can stamp them individually or layer them together. Here's a look at a card I created where I had stamped all of the exclamation points out and then also added that outline on top, and I will show you how I did that. The sentiment on the front of this card comes from the Happy Thanks stamp set. Here is a look at the colors that I used for this particular background, and I do have 2 other color combinations to share with you. I like how I can kind of customize the color to the person that I might be sending the birthday card to. So here's one featuring a lot of blues and then a neutral using the Dove ink. To add those exclamation outlines onto your background, I am taking those exclamation points and adding them to a clear block. Then I'm going to ink it up with VersaFine black ink. Now keep in mind, VersaFine does stay wet a little longer, so once you stamp, be careful not to smudge your project. Now what I thought was really fun about this is the playful look that this gives. I love adding that outline to it, but it's a little off center. I don't have them lined up perfect, and I think it just adds to the whole fun of either the birthday card or encouragement card, whatever I happen to be making. I also felt it was kind of fun, like a word search game where you're just kind of searching through the background to see which one fits. So this background is exactly how I created my previous card that I had showed you. Here's a look at a birthday card I created using the Exclamation Turnabout Dies. I kept it really simple by just adding the sentiment to the middle and then adding a bunch of those stars that I die cut out and kind of have it as confetti around my sentiment. There's a look at our Exclamations Turnabout Stamp and Dies and some color inspiration for you. I'm introducing introducing to you today the Happy Thanks Stamps and Dies Bundle. We have these two large sentiments for dies, Oh Happy Day and Thank You, which are great focal points for the front of your card. The stamp set is really great where you can mix and match between them. So we have Oh Happy Day, Thank You, Go Crazy, but then you can also have things like Oh Happy Day, Go Crazy, Thank You, You're the Best, Thank you for that thing you did. There's so many different possibilities on this set, or you can cut these out and add them to the front of your card with your large sentiments. A closer look into the dies. These are always really great because you're almost getting 2 for 1 when you die cut these out. So I die cut out the word thank you from some gold cardstock, but I also have an outline that cuts out. So I really get 2 for 1 out of this. If you save the negatives, you can really do 2 sentiments out of 1 pass. And then of course we have the base layer. Now this is the outline from Oh Happy Day. For this card that I created, I used the base die to die cut out a window on the front of some white cardstock. I have pattern paper behind it, and then my panel has foam tape, so it's lifted up, and then I added the thank you on top. This would also make a really great shaker card. I have that smaller sub-sentiment under there, so thank you, so kind of you, and then I decorated it with some flowers from In the Meadow Dies. I have another card that I created, and this one is using the Oh Happy Day die cut from gold cardstock, and I'm using it as center stage on the front of my colorful background. That is a closer look and inspiration using the Happy Thanks Stamps and Dies. Today I'm introducing you to the In the Meadow Turnabout Stamp and Die set. This turnabout creates a beautiful, delicate floral design, and like our turnabouts, they come with the transparency guide that you'll need to line up your turnabout stamp, and on the back it'll show you stepped out 1, 2, 3, and 4 turns. A closer look at the sentiments included on the set are so grateful for you, you're so kind, thinking of you. There are also some small elements on here if you want to create a small, clean and simple card. We have some leaves and smaller flower elements, and then additional sayings, sending hugs, just saying hello, and thank you so much. Here are a few different color combinations that I had created. I'll be remaking the top one for you, but here is another one that's got some almost Christmas colors in it. I have poppy, I believe that is grapefruit, parsley, and sprout. And then this one on the left has some more neutral tones. So I have dove and mushroom, but I also used sprout and parsley, but you could change that up for any color. Taking a closer look at the dies included in the set, we have some leaves, which I die cut out of sprout and parsley. Then we also have a couple smaller flowers and larger flowers. I just die cut a few of them out of some different colors. And then there's also what looks to me like a berry branch. Now here is a card I created just using the dies, and I did some ink blending from the top corner down and stamping a sentiment in the bottom corner. And one thing I really love to do is die cut leaves from white cardstock. So this is a background where I swiped my ink pads across the cardstock and I just added those leaves die cut from white cardstock. This is another one where I had stamped out the Turnabout stamp and die cut it out with those honeycomb dies and added that large sentiment in the center. I'm going to stamp out this design for you using one of my color combinations that I showed earlier. So I have white cardstock loaded into my all-in-one Turnabout Jig, and I'm stamping down Sprout ink first. I'm going to then turn my jig to make sure that the number 2 is in the top right corner, and then you just always want to make sure that the jig is snug down in that bottom left-hand corner, so it's always in the same position. The second color there was Aqua Sky. Then I have my third turn in Honeysuckle, and then I have my fourth turn in Oceanside. To remove my cardstock, I'm going to actually bend the jig and not pull the cardstock, so that way I don't bend my paper. I have a little bit of curling, but very easy to straighten out. Then to clean my jig, I just have some water on a rag and I'm wiping that away. Once this is dry, the stick will come back, and then I'll attach the carrier sheet to protect the stickiness. There was a closer look at the In the Meadow Turnabout and Die set, along with lots of color inspiration for you. Today I'm introducing you to Garden Grown Stamp, Dies, and Stencil Pack. This is great for all the veggie lovers out there where you can create background full of veggies in either tone-on-tone or a very colorful background. If you like puns, this stamp set is for you. There are sentiments like, I care it about you a lot, rooting for you, you're pretty radish, I'd pick you as my friend every time, you make me happy, and many more. Here's a closer look at the die set. Now this creates a larger version of what you're going to see on the background stencil. I have everything cut out in a bright variety of colors, and the peppers are really fun because you can really get creative with those. Now I went ahead and attached the top of the tomato. I just wanted to show you how these layer up together as far as attaching some of these. The onion has two pieces to it, so you can have a lighter color base and a darker color top, or vice versa. There's also the carrot and the stem of the carrot. There's that little dot kind of at the bottom there that the die creates, and that's where you'll attach your liquid glue. There's also the leaves for the radish. Now this one can be 1 or 2. I am adding 2 to this one, so I added little dots of glue just to that little circle area that the die created. There are also little toppers for your peppers that I went ahead and attached already. So here's a card where I used just the dies for the front of the card. Very colorful, very fun. And I added one of the punny sentiments to the top corner. A closer look at the stencil pack. This one, the stencil measures 4 3/4 by 6 inches, and there's 3 layers to the stencil. The first layer is the greenery or the leaves, and the second and third layer are the vegetables themselves. I'm starting with that first layer where it's all the leaves, and I'm adding on Sprout ink. So I started with the lightest ink color. Now this is really fun because you can really come in and add different shades of green over the top of this. You can pick and choose where you want to add that darker color, and there's another reason why it's really handy to have some mini blending brushes on hand. Now I brought in the second layer, and this is where you can really start to have fun with your colors. For the mushrooms that I'm blending on right now, I am using wheat ink, or you could use a light gray. And for the tomatoes, you could really use a variety of shades here. You could use grapefruit, or I happen to be using poppy ink to make mine bright red tomatoes. I'll come in with some cranberry ink to add to the radishes, and also one of the other small sets of tomatoes, just to change up the color a little bit. Then we have the carrot up on top, which I'm using marmalade for. And then for this other one, I think it's a zucchini. I don't eat them, but I think it's a zucchini. I'm using evergreen for. Now, after I remove this layer, this is the second layer of the stencil. I can remove this, and our background is really starting to come together and looking really cool. Now we could bring in the third layer of the stencil, and once again you can have fun with your colors, kind of playing with different shades. We have the tomatoes, some peppers that you can make yellow. I used Stardust there, or you can use poppy. Now that zucchini I mentioned earlier, I thought maybe it could be an eggplant, so I used eggplant ink. So there we have this really fun, colorful background and the cards that I created using the Garden Grown Stamp, Die, and Stencil set. Today I'm introducing you to the Picnic Plaid Turnabout stamp. This is a classic design that is sure to become a staple in your stamp collection. It looks great whether it's stamped out 1, 2, 3 times, or 4 for the whole background. Now, of course, our turnabouts come with the guide sheet that you'll need to do the turnabout stamping. And then here are the examples of it stamped out 1, 2, 3, and 4 times. Here's a card example that I made using the Happy Birthday. So this is a great background for birthday cards, especially for those where they might not want cutesy or you're not really sure what to make. A great classic background for that. The plaid also looks good as the bottom portion of maybe a design that's a little bit busier. It gives your eye a place to rest, and it looks great as tone on tone, or here are a few color examples that I did. The bottom one is all one color, so it makes for great backgrounds that way, but it also looks good where it's stamped out maybe just once or twice. I really like this one that I stamped out 2 or 3 times, and this one is in mushroom ink. And then I have one more background to share, and this one's kind of more on the bright side. So I have some dark blues and dark pinks. Another background I have I think would work really good for baby cards because it has blues and pinks mixed in, but more on the softer side. I'm going to use my all-in-one Turnabout Jig to stamp out a pattern for you. I started with a light pink. This is ballet slippers. Then I'm going to turn my jig so my number 2 is in that top right corner, and this is honeysuckle ink. Then I'll turn my jig so the 3 is in the top right corner, and I can stamp down the aqua sky, and then turning it one more time so the 4 is in the top right corner, and stamping down sprout. I also wanted to show you how I remove my cardstock from the jig. So instead of pulling the paper off, which can really curl up your paper, I'm actually peeling the jig away from it. So you just want to be a little careful so it doesn't kind of snap back at you, but just really bend that down and you can peel up your paper. So that way you're not going to get your paper all curled up. Then to clean this, because there's excess ink on there from our stamping, I just wet a rag and wiped that down. After it dries, the stick is going to come back, and then be sure to place the carrier sheet back on top to protect that sticky surface. So there was a look on how to create your backgrounds using the Picnic Plaid Turnabout, and also how to use it with the all-in-one Turnabout Jig and some color combinations. I'm introducing the Mini Months Stamp and Die, which coordinates with the 2023 calendar. These are really great to personalize and add to your home or office space. The calendar this year measures 4 1/4 by 7 inches and coordinates with the Mini Months Stamp and Die bundle. It is 16 pages, so there's 1 page for each of the month. Then there's also 2 pages in the back that give an overview of the calendars. And then there's also a decorative back page that has these really nice classic black stripes. I'm going to demonstrate for you how the Stamp and Die bundle work. So I have a piece of white cardstock that I'm going to place my months on. Now this stamp is all in one. All the months are on one stamp. I'm going to prep this with an anti-static powder tool because I plan on doing some heat embossing. Next, I'm inking this up with a VersaFine ink so it's going to stay wet for a little while. I'm going to stamp that down and then sprinkle on some clear embossing powder, and this is going to trap that black ink underneath. Now you could really customize these, stamp these in a rainbow of colors, but a fun thing about heat embossing them like this is you could ink blend over the top. Next, I'm going to take the coordinating die. Now the die is going to cut all of these out at once. There's that little arrow at the top. That means that goes at the top. Once I line these up straight, I'm going to hold that down with some low-tack tape and run these through my die cut machine, and everything cuts out all at once. Now this calendar was designed with the Petal Pushers bundle in mind. The stencils fit perfectly in the top portion of the calendar. I was able to take some time and decorate the tops of some of my pages. Now you can see these are very clean and simple. I don't need to add a lot to them, but you can customize them a lot. For example, February, that's my daughter's birthday month, so I have that megaphone there that said wow. I used the Petal Pushers stencil on some of them or some of the plaid backgrounds, also some die cuts. I did stay consistent and keeping my month in the same place on every page. I had also used that die from Petal Pushers to die cut out a panel that fits perfectly on the top of each calendar. Now I only got as far as August, but I definitely plan on finishing my calendar. While I plan on keeping this one, I think they make great gifts to family members and friends. That was a look at the Mini Months Stamp and Die. Thanks for watching.